Heart Farm is located outside of Centerview, Missouri, about 30 minutes from where we live. It is located at the farm of our friends, Todd and Bobby Wilson, along with their daughter Tori and her husband Peter. We were met by our friend Tori, who got us dressed and ready to go in our beekeeping attire. We were both pretty excited to spend the afternoon learning about the bees. Scott, of course, was ready to dive right in and go for it. Me, on the other hand, I just wanted to make sure that there were no holes in my attire before we got started.
So my main goal in this hive is going to be checking for queen, or at least evidence of a queen, because it did get blown over a couple days ago. Well, last weekend. I need to make sure that there's still a queen in there. So that is our big goal for this hive.
All right. I guess it's common to smash your bees when you put the lid on.
So that you try not to, but I think like the statistic is every time you open your hive, you kill at least 300 bees.
Oh, wow.
Just from moving frames, putting boxes on. We try to prevent as much of that as possible, but the hive that we'll look at next is going to have a lot of dead bees, because in the storm, when we put the boxes together, we put them on really quick because it was 11:30 at night and it was still storming. So
That's fascinating.
we tried to put them on as quickly as possible, and unfortunately more bees got killed than normal. So what I just took off is called a queen excluder. You put the queen excluder on before you put supers on for honey. So if you're going to harvest honey, and that is so she doesn't lay eggs in your honey frames.
So right now you're just looking for a queen.
Right now I'm just looking for evidence of a queen, yeah. So this looks like it could be a brood chamber at one point because it's dark. So oftentimes bees will they typically lay brood in the middle, and then they pack in honey and bee bread or pollen on the edge, and that's what they feed their baby bees. So this part right here is capped brood.
Is what?
Capped brood.
Oh,
So those are baby bees in there.
I see.
And then you can see the honey, you can see it shining.
Oh, yeah.
Bees build at an angle. So if you take the top and look up, you can see the sun in it, and you can see down into those cells better. Yeah, they're in a good mood today.
Good.
It's a nice day out. The wind is low. It's not raining. It's been a week since they've been tipped over.
They have short memories.
Yeah, so in the summer, a bee in the summer usually only lives 4 to 6 weeks. And bees in the winter live for most of the winter. So when bees start emerging in the fall, they're usually like chunkier. Because they last longer. So here is a brood frame. You can see all that dark. And what I'm looking for is eggs, just to make sure that the queen did not get killed. But it's
her body's a little longer.
Yeah, so I will, see this bee right here? This one? That one was just emerged.
Oh, okay.
See how it's like blonde, and
Yeah.
that one is a brand new baby bee. If you see little rice specks, those are eggs. And then you might find little worm looking things, and that's the larva.
Cool.
You want to try and take a look?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want to give it to her? You want me to? And you can get really close if you want. It's not going to, they're not going to be upset. So the bees that are on brood frames, and a brood frame is what the queen is laying on. So the bees that are taking care of the larva and the eggs are called nurse bees.
So is this guy here puking up honey? Is that why he had his head in the hole?
Yeah, or cleaning the cell.
Oh.
Bringing back nectar, yeah, or cleaning the cell, Yeah, so the queen, the queen's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. You know, there's around 60,000 bees in a hive typically, and you're looking for just one.
Yeah.
It's also that time of year when robbing happens. And robbing is when one beehive attacks a smaller beehive and takes its honey. So,
I can hear 'em.
yeah, you want your beehive to sound kind of like an air conditioner.
There it goes.
I'll see if I can find a drone too. I told you I was going to show you a drone.
Those drones are the males, and they're
Right.
bigger and stupid, and they don't do much
It depends
work.
on who you ask. Depends on who you ask. I'm not impressed with drones too hot, but you know, you need good drones and good drone genetics to have good queens, right? So a
That's
queen can do, they go on mating flights and they can take 3 to 5 days, and they can mate with up to 24 drones. So then they store all of that sperm for their whole life, their whole laying life. That's also why they're longer bodied. So the queen is the only bee in the hive. All worker bees are female, minus the drones obviously, but they don't really work. And they don't protect or anything really. But the queen can lay fertilized and non-fertilized eggs. The non-fertilized eggs are the drones, and the fertilized are worker bee brood. So all of this that you're looking at is worker bees. You see all that larva in there? Looks like kind of like maggots. Oh, and there's the queen too. I see her. Who's gonna see her first, Kelly or Scott? She's longer, has a really long body, a big black bald spot right on the middle of her. I think it's called the thoracic. She moves a little faster, but she always has attendants with her because she doesn't usually slow down. She usually lays all day, so she can lay up to 2,000 eggs a day. And mated queens are also sensitive to sunlight. So that is why she flipped to this side. But she'll have attendant bees around her, so often there's like a circle.
That her?
Yep, that is her. Good job.
Oh, I see her now.
Yep, so she will often have a circle of bees around her or bees close to her that will help feed her, clean her. But right now she's looking at the brood to see where she can lay an egg. And that is what we call her, the queen, like it's something super amazing and awesome. But other countries call her like the mother or the womb of a beehive, because her sole job is to lay eggs and to keep the population up. So she's a VSH, Varroa sensitive hygienic. Hopefully that means that our hive will be able to fight off the Varroa mite better. I don't like to put chemicals in my beehive. So I did Apivar my very first year beekeeping, which is a common mite treatment, but I have no intention of putting it back in my hive. You can treat for mites without putting chemicals in your hive. There's different things that you can do, but the thought is that the chemical, the Apivar chemical, goes away. And a lot of people think, oh, the Apivar chemical is only in there when you're treating it in those few weeks after. But the truth is, it's still in the comb and it doesn't ever come out of the comb. And some people will debate that until they're blue in the face. And so it's just to each their own, how they want to do their own beehives. I prefer not to have any chemicals in, because the more you treat, the more sturdy the mites become, and the more resilient or resistant to the treatment the mites are. So in the long run, it's not really the most helpful, because now we're just making resistant mites, unfortunately. So some beekeepers will feed them sugar water right out of winter, and some will do it in the fall too to help them prep for the winter. Usually you don't feed sugar water in the summer, like when everything's blooming, there's a lot of nectar and pollen, because then you can make your hive too strong and then they'll swarm.
We're going where?
To the gangster hive, the south side.
The gangster.
Okay, Southside Hive. She says that's the gangster hive.
So the more bees, the more, and you'll see when I open this, they'll fly straight to my face. All this sticky stuff that keeps the boxes together, keeps the frames in a place, it's called propolis.
So that's something you add.
Nope, the bees do it. So there's capped honey.
Oh, wow.
It's not a complete sheet. You can see kind of where they still have openings. And they probably rebuilt that. So if a frame got damage to it or comb got damaged to it when they fell, they will rebuild it, and they'll spend time cleaning it out and rebuilding it. But bees crack me up because they make tunnels. So the last foundation that you saw on frames was foundation. So it's a foundation through the whole board. These do not have foundation on them. They just have support wires.
Oh, I
so you
see.
can see where they've built tunnels through to get from one place to the other quicker. Instead of going up and around or down and around. So there's the different. Look at that tunnel.
Oh, wow.
Always look. So I always try to look at the bottom of the frames here. And these are super frames in a medium box. That was my own fault. And I should have switched it, and I just haven't yet. But always look at the bottom of the frames to see if there's a queen cell or a swarm cell. If there is a queen cell or a swarm cell, you need to see if there's anything in it, if there's an egg, if there's larva, if it's capped. Because if there is that, then half your hive's about to leave. And you got to figure out what you're going to do to keep them. Or if you're going to do a split, so take half the hive and put it in another box with the existing queen, but then you have to find the queen, which can pose difficulty. And bees communicate through touch. So if you see bees like licking each other with their tongues, or they're like right up to each other, that's how they communicate. Because it's dark in here, you know, 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you have to worry about laying workers. So if you miss that your queen or that your hive doesn't have a queen, which can happen if you're just doing a quick check, if your hive sits without a queen for 4 weeks, typically you'll have what's called a laying worker, which is, since all of the bees are female, they can all lay eggs, but only the queen can lay the fertilized working brood. So a laying worker will go and lay eggs, but a laying worker brood looks so much different than queen laying sheets, because it'll be an egg here, and then it'll be an egg there, and then it'll be 3 eggs in a cell, or 4 eggs in a cell. Since I've seen small hive beetles in here, we're going to put an unscented Swiffer pad in here. For whatever reason, the bees will fluff up the Swiffer. And the hive beetles, I think they have like little hooks on their feet, but I could be wrong. But their feet, for whatever reason, can't get out of the fluffed up Swiffer. So they'll chase them to the Swiffer, and then they'll get stuck there and they'll die. So then they can't have more babies in their hive and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I brought a Swiffer. When I'll come back in if I come back in like 4 days, they'll have this all fluffed up. And then every time you put a Swiffer in, you can flip it.
Just in the middle.
On the edges typically. Yeah, yep. And you have to be careful that you don't have like these corners sticking out of the actual boxes, because if you do, then they work as like a, wait, there you go. We like to plant sunflowers because 1, we have the cut flowers, but 2, sunflowers are also a natural antibiotic for bees.
Nope.
You may even see her, I'm not sure if she has this frame laid or not, but you may even see her back up. So what she's doing now, she's checking to see if there's eggs or larvae in the cells. And if she finds one that doesn't have an egg, she'll back up into it and lay her egg. And that's pretty cool too, but this looks like a pretty full frame.
Where is she?
She's going towards the bottom now.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, she's bigger than the last one. So if you could just tip it sideways.
Okay.
Yep, and then what I do is I just run that straight edge. See how they just fall in?
Oh, wow.
And then you just, so that wasn't a very good job, but you want them off of a brood because a lot of the times the mites go in, the mites hang out on the brood frames in the nurse bees. And then you gotta, before you put any more bees in, you gotta pop them down to the bottom. You want it light and fluffy. As light and fluffy as you can get it with as little as clumps as possible. We call these ghost bees. So then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna roll them. And we only do this for, you know, a minute or two.
Puppy chow.
Kind of,
It
yeah.
just looks like puppy chow.
And then what we'll do is we're gonna go put it in the shade and we'll put the hive back together. We'll put that inner cover on them. Come on, ladies, get out of the way. And this hive was mite treated last fall, but half the hive has left, and that queen left, so we have a new queen in there. So I'm interested to see, and like I said, bees only last, except minus the queen, the workers only last 4 to 6 weeks in the summer. So then you can just start, don't like shake them like you're killing them, just kind of pop it down like this.
Like that.
The other way.
Oh.
Yep, and the mites will come out that way. So you can kind of see how that powder's coming out. And usually you'll see mites like right at the end. So I don't see any yet. And you just want to keep going until you can get all of the powdered sugar out of the, well, as much as you can. There's 2 tablespoons in there, so.
And the bees are still thriving.
Yep. There's another one right there that just popped out.
Yep.
So 4.
So you can just eyeball and pretty much tell you have 300 or close to it.
Yeah, half a cup is about 300 bees. And I bet we'll get it.
Right
Yep,
there.
there it is. There's 12. So that's 4%. And that one slit on their rear end is, I believe, where their wax actually comes out. But they'll fan and they'll get the other bees around to help them clean off. And that's what's happening right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just tilt it.
That's why you call them ghost bees, huh?
Yeah. But recently at our hive that's in town, we had a big old pile of dead bees in the front of our beehive. And so that was like, oh snap, something is wrong, something happened. And what happened was, we think, they got into some kind of pesticide, but it was right when the first flush of Japanese beetles got here this year. And so I think somebody put 7 dust out, like one of our neighbors for their garden or their landscaping put 7 dust out. And so they think the 7 dust is pollen. And then what it does is it basically gives them a seizure and they die. But if it's not too far, they can bring it back to the hive and then it's a whole situation. So if you have a pile of bees in the front of your hive, that's a die-off. And you really got to be careful on what happens, because you could have a virus, you could have, you know, there's a lot of different things that could cause a die-off like that. So you kind of got to check your hive and run, troubleshoot, and see what's kind of going on. But our bees looked healthy on the inside, and they came back and we're fine, and we don't have that pile of bees anymore, like it's gone. So thankfully they seem to have overcome it. Yeah. So if you're watching, don't use 7 Dust. So did you get stung at all?
Not at all.
Not at all. Nice.
After a couple of hours of beekeeping, Tori generously allowed me to cut my own bouquet. The flowers are not treated with chemicals, therefore they are healthier for the bees. If you know me well, I'm not at all talented in creative, beautiful pieces of art, and bouquets are no exception. Fortunately, Tori gave me a lot of tips and helped me create my bouquet. I don't think it turned out too bad. Okay, so we just left Grateful Heart Farm, and wow, it was wonderful. Had a great time.
Yep. The Wilsons, they fed us lunch before we started, and then we went out with Tori to the beehives, and it was really cool. We learned a lot, and they were so gracious with everything they had. It was a really good time.
They do have cut flowers, and I was able to cut some flowers before I left into a bouquet, but they will sell their flowers almost every Saturday at Warrensburg, Missouri Farmers Market. So if you happen to be in the area on Saturday morning, stop by and grab a bouquet. They're beautiful flowers. They don't use pesticides, and so
Yep.
it's really cool.
Great people with a great farm.
Yeah, great people with a great farm. Thanks, Wilsons and Grateful Heart Farm. Be sure to follow Grateful Heart Farm on Instagram at Grateful Heart Farm. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.